Good morning, and it's good to be an all-around good guy. That's a good start.
I'm going to hand it over to you, so you're going to do a great job. I know you will.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And up to this point, it's been wonderful to hear everything that's been going on. Thank you for joining us, everybody who is joining us. And here we are. We're making the big test. We're using technology to talk about technology. What could possibly go wrong during this session? Again, welcome. We are talking about leveraging the power of technology for education. The big question, are we there yet? And so let's introduce the panel. If we can see them one by one appear on the screen. First, we have Nasser Zaeri. If we can see that, Nasser. And Nasser, I'm not going to pretend to give an introduction about you since I've never actually met you. So can you give us your little 20-second version of who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Good day, Orlando. I'm happy and glad to have you all, and thank you for inviting me for such a wonderful panel. And I would like to extend my gratitude to Alhambra Chamber, US Chamber. This is Nasser Zaeri, PhD in electrical engineering, the specialization in communication systems, communication network, digital image and signal processing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. I was a lecturer with the Electrical Engineering Department, Kuwait University. Then I moved to the Arab Open University as head of Information Technology and Computer Department. Then as director for research and development, responsible for 8 different campuses distributed at 8 different Arab countries. Right now, I'm associate professor with the Faculty of Computer Studies. I'm also a consultant and a project leader for many technical engineering projects for several ministries and organizations, local, international. And actually, the most recent project that was just wrapped up a couple of months ago, where we investigated how can artificial intelligence and machine learning could assist in COVID-19 pandemic. And that's it.
And that's exactly why we've got you. And you are joined with Shelly Zalis. Shelly.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here as well. And I just loved hearing that we should change the language from soft skills to essential skills, because we know that the soft skills, which are the essential skills, are the most important qualities of leadership today. So I loved the language that we're now using. I am the CEO of the Female Quotient. The Female Quotient is a new company that is about 6 years old. We are about changing the equation and closing the gaps in Fortune 500. And I am also the pioneer of online research, migrating research from offline to online very long ago when the internet came around. And I'm also the co-founder of See Her, an organization, well, actually a movement that we have created with the ANA, the Association of National Advertisers, all about bringing more visibility to the accurate and realistic portrayal of girls and women in media and advertising. So happy to be here.
Perfect. Thank you, Shelly. Kholoud, Khateeb, you've joined us as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be in this diversified panel. I talk to you from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Well, I'm right now an assistant professor in Effat University, one of the first female colleges or universities in Saudi Arabia. I believe in interdisciplinary education, so I have a background in computer science and industrial engineering. I was fortunate to explore the technology from the different perspective. Let's say from the banking, I was a project manager running telecommunication project. During my studies, I was a fellow in Connected Health organization back in Boston, and right now I'm using the technology for education. I am very interested to be part of this discussion where we can really go further in our imagination using technology and education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, Amal Bukhari.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. It's my pleasure to meet everyone. Thank you for inviting me. This is Emil Bukhari from, I'm as well from Jeddah, city of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, and from University of Jeddah. And I'm holding a position as supervisor of innovation entrepreneurship as well. So I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everyone.
Great. What a fun panel. And everybody gets to be in with beautiful backgrounds and grapes and flowers and things on shelves. And you are all in my kitchen, as a matter of fact. Once again, welcome to Leveraging the Power of Technology for Education. Are we there yet? You know, as an introduction to this, it has been so powerful this last year as everybody has had to make adjustments to the way that we present content to students. But I don't want to get lost today on just talking about the pandemic world. I want to make sure that whatever we're talking about is more about the issues of the power of technology in education in general. And so as we talk, be aware that we're not going to emphasize the fact that we're in a temporary mode because of pandemic issues. This is the issue that education should be attacking no matter what mode we're in. And hopefully that's the direction we'll take. And with that, as just a simple introduction, I would like to ask the panel to discuss in what ways have your students been benefiting from whatever ways that technology is able to enhance the education experience. And so we'll just go around and give everybody a chance to make that as their introductory statement. Amal, since we introduced you final, let's let you be the one that starts.
Sure. So I'm teaching now, actually, while the pandemic, I taught introduction to data science. So we were using our language. And then technology, I feel like with the pandemic, changed the whole approach of teaching. Before, like in the classroom, our culture was like the teaching centralized on the teacher or the professor, and they got all the information from the professor at the time of the classroom. But now, and with the technology, the whole approach and model has changed, and it become more centered to the student. So the student have to do more work to into their learning journey, from reading more and do the discussion with other students. With R, for example, actually, I didn't like. Honestly, I love the e-learning because it didn't stop me unless like I have a technical issue. With R, now they have the cloud R studio. So I was able even to show the labs to the students. We didn't really have to go to the labs.
And we're going to move from person to person fairly quickly here, but I wanted to just jump out at a couple of things here. Did you notice that she said the students are reading more? Did
Yes.
you notice she said there's more discussion among the students? That is my experience totally, that rather than have the teacher direct one by one every comment, technology has given me the chance to have students do more, read more, and interact more. Right on, Amal. Kholoud, would you mind adding your comments on that same issue?
Definitely. I can reflect on what Amal have mentioned and what you have said, Orlando. I was fascinated by the students' ability to connect with each other using different platforms, such as the platforms of the social media. They become very skillful in connecting with each other, very creative on working together to solve problems. And in fact, in my experience, I use the Blackboard, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Blackboard system. And with that, we use the shared screen feature, and it was so much fun. In fact, my role kind of shifted from let's say mentoring to observing. The student got so excited to help each other, solving problems and teaching each other, while I was trying to give, let's see, the instructions on how the class should go, but they would get excited on the exercises. So yes, they developed more skills, and yes, they're looking now into external resources for learning, and not only with whatever we offer them within the content of the course, but they're now very much comfortable to use YouTube, Coursera, other platforms for learning to enrich the experience. So I think we gained a lot from the online experience.
And notice that we just heard as well, don't micromanage this. Allow the students to figure out how to connect with each other. If they want to use a WhatsApp, if they want to use Google Hangout, if they want to use Teams, they kind of figure it out on their own, don't they? We allow the students to be the ones that figure out, you want to talk to each other? Go ahead and do it whenever and however you'd like to. We don't micromanage that. And that's exactly what we just heard. Shelly.
Well, I mean, I'm not a professor and I'm not in education, but I'm in the Fortune 500 business world. And I think it's the same thing. Necessity is the mother of invention. And when we pivoted, from the physical to now the virtual, it was an or for us. And I think now it's a new and I think that it has expanded our lives in such incredible ways and is a whole new world for us. And, EdTech has exploded, as we all know, and has opened up new doors of possibility and has flipped the script completely from a push world to a pull world. And instead of it being the teacher, the one to many, I think it's the many to all, and has created a whole new world of collaboration, a whole new world of accessibility, a whole new world of mix and match opportunities, a whole new world of possibilities. And as you said, not just thinking of it as a pivot, but truly as this whole new world of possibilities that even in the Fortune 500 world of business, we are now using this world of technology in ways that we were experimenting with pre-COVID, but now it's becoming a whole new way of doing business as an and that we will be using in a magnitude world that we can get into, that we are so excited about, that is going to open our world in miraculous ways.
So everybody write that down in your notes. It is not the one to the many, it is the many to the all. And that's exactly.
I want to say the possibilities for women and what it will do for women. And so I cannot wait to open that conversation. Is going to be phenomenal.
That's my experience as well, of that the dominant student who used to answer every question now becomes part of the whole. And the students who were in the corners that didn't comment as much in class, they're now engaged at an equal footing with everybody else. It really is a way for everybody. Naser, your 2 cents on this first question.
Oh, yes. I think it's good to give an idea about our institution. As we are Arab Open University, some may think that it is an open learning kind of environment. Actually, we adopt a British curriculum from the Open University, but the mode of learning that we apply here is hybrid learning, blended learning, and sessions, actual morning sessions. Our colleagues discuss something related in this direction. When it comes to blended learning, this means that during the last 20 years since we have started this institution in the Arab world, and the campuses that are distributed in 8 different countries: Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan, and recently have started a new one also in Sudan. So that has actually enforced us to apply that communication technology part of your dimension and this issue. So we have been practicing this actually during the last 20 years, having face-to-face mode of lecturing and learning. Beside that, we have what we call now online learning. And I'm saying this to say that actually helped us to do that almost, if I could say, smooth transition to the new age, unfortunately, the Corona period of time. So when the people or the academic institution faced this, some of the universities were not up to that standard of facing this dilemma, but others were a bit more prepared compared to the others. So I would say we were at the level. Now, saying this, let me also mention or say something more or shed the light on another issue and that perspective. When it comes to higher education, we all know that we have two perspectives. We have learning purpose perspective and we have certification perspective. When it comes to student, probably majority of our students have their eyes on the degree. At the end of the day, they want to have their certification or their degree. So at the end, they want to have their job. So they are looking at that perspective more than what actually they look at from learning and how much they can gain. The main issue in online learning is how to attract actually the student in this regard. And this comes the problem of how can use technology in order to make sure that students are attracted, are really engaged. It is not only a matter of attending class and probably muting me, watching their TV, playing their games, and actually they are not paying enough attention to the learning material. So that was actually a big issue in this regard. We want to make sure that they are engaged in this aspect. And also, when it comes to designing the exams or the assessment components, that is also another issue that we need to focus on and make sure that they have actually learned what we are trying to give them, or what the curriculums and the course content are actually offering them. So this is what
And
that
so
was
as part of
a
that,
big
Nasser, we're going to
issue. I don't want
branch
to
into
take time
assessment
on
in a
this.
second.
Maybe we'll discuss it further at other issues. So that was an issue that I came in mind, and I said it's important to share it with you.
And we are going to address the issue of assessment in a question in just a little bit. Before we do that, as an example of engagement, I require all of my students to write at least 5 comments in the chat windows during a class session, which means if I have 25 students, I now have hundreds of comments that are going back and forth during the class. And then I go back to my traditional classroom where it's one at a time. And the pace of my course just went to a standstill, slow, when I no longer had that chat going on continually. So for me, the engagement issue is one of the powerful aspects of me being able to provide technology with a way to have all the students, and as Shelly mentioned, everybody all at the same time. With that in mind, Shelly, we do have a question specifically for you from the audience, which is, what does diversity and inclusion mean for businesses and schools in 2022? And what strategies or suggestions do we have about that? So Shelly, could we give you a chance to answer that question for us?
You know, it's a really important question, and I'm so thrilled to have 2 incredible women from Saudi Arabia, because my experience in Saudi Arabia was one of the most important experiences in my career so far. I have a beautiful pack of women in Saudi Arabia that are now my inner circle. And I also taught a few courses in universities in Saudi Arabia with wonderful women, so near and dear to my heart. And Princess Rima, a great friend of mine from Saudi Arabia. Diversity, big word. You know, we used to have chief diversity officers, and then we moved to chief diversity and inclusion officers. And now we talk about the word belonging, and such an important word, because diversity is difference and inclusion is making everyone feel included. But it's really about belonging, making sure that everyone is seen and heard. And I think this whole concept of, you know, now having online education and opening up the world for all of us is so important, because when you have differences, you know, in business, in the classroom, as students, we need to make sure that everyone also feels comfortable. And that is so incredibly important, because when we have differences, we also need to make sure that we all understand what unites us and what makes us feel connected, and that our differences are our greatest strength and also what makes us, most importantly, connected, and that we all belong. And when we say that our differences are our greatest strength, that's the power of team. And that's our greatest value, and that we bring value together. And so that language is so important, to be able to listen to hear, listening to one another, understanding one another, learning from one another. That's what is so important about sitting at the same table and being partners with one another, is what we need to understand. And that's a culture. That's a culture thing. That's not a command and control that you learn in a textbook about listening to learn from one another. You can't tell someone to be kind. That is something that people with one another have to do together. Culture is something that people, a team, have to learn to grow together. That's not something that a leader tells you. You all need to like each other, to learn from one another. Culture is about the people that surround each other. And so those words are very important words, that culture is about the people that you are surrounding yourself with, that have to become something that you do together. And so those words are very important words, that culture is about you forming from one another. When people talk about leadership, leadership is not about your title as CEO. You are all CEOs, and you have the responsibility to create the diversity, the inclusion, and that culture of belonging amongst yourselves. That is not something that someone passes to you and says, you are, in charge. And so it's something that is a very important piece that every single person inside of a company has responsibility for and has to be accountable for inside of an organization. And I think that's what we get wrong inside of companies.
Well said. In Kholoud, let's ask you to kind of follow up with that same concept. We're talking about the power of technology and how that relates to diversity and inclusion. What would your response be to that?
First of all, I am impressed about your achievement, Shelly, and your point of view about diversity, and the way you are addressing the workplace, the fact that the culture is important, the culture is addressed, and we feel for each other. There are feelings, there are emotions in the business. It's not all about industrializing or maximizing the benefit. Yes, this is part of what we do, but the fact that we have to be comfortable, we have to make the work environment or the classroom environment very comfortable is essential as well. In my teaching approach during the pandemic, I tried, when possible, to use the flipped classroom approach teaching model, in which I introduced the instructions to the students to do some reading prior to the class. And in the classroom, I'm not just talking and they're listening. I wanted them to be more engaged with me in terms of the let's say higher order thinking activities. So they would engage with me in problem solving, analyzing, project-based learning. So that was a good opportunity for me to look into the personalized learning aspect for each student. They are diversified, as you said. They come from different backgrounds, different knowledge, believe it or not. Even though, for example, I teach the students that come from the city of Jeddah, but each one of them have a different knowledge base that I have to address, a different learning way in which I have to, let's say, look at and try to talk to them from the way they are comfortable with. So, and it was fun to have this diversity. The class was very vibrant. We had so much fun. And honestly, the attendance rate was always high in my classes because it was it was more of a fun experience. Let's put it this way: learning by fun, and for the undergrad experience, gamification sometimes makes a difference. Using those cloud words and have this interaction made the class have different flavor. So yeah, that's
Right.
about the diversity.
And notice what we're hearing. Again, the focus of this session is to say what is the power of technology. And we've just heard that when it comes to diversity, the ability to make everybody comfortable in class, to incorporate culture into the class, to know that everybody has a different learning base. These are all words that Shelly and Kholoud use to talk about. This is exactly what is accomplished by the power of technology. They're not just talking to them, engaging, problem solving, gamification, project-based learning. All those are elements of the power of technology.
Orlando, I just want you to add one more word to that, which was a very important word that Kholoud used, which was personalization.
I actually wrote it down and didn't put it down here. Exactly. That's what we're getting with the power of technology. Let's turn to Amal and Naser again. And I'd like to ask the two of you, what are the technologies that have been able to facilitate effective learning? What specifically can you say, because of the power of technology, this is what I can do now that I couldn't do before? Let's begin with Amal and then over to Naser.
The brainstorming sessions that we use I'm using Blackboard as well, like Dr. Kholoud, and the brainstorming session that I make all the students, especially like when you talk about personalizing learning, that there's different personality with the student. So some of them, they are very introvert. They don't really maybe study with others. They don't do groups like during the classes. In Blackboard, like when we ask question, everyone are ready to answer and engage with other students. And other than that, like everyone with the technology help in self-paced. Like maybe she wasn't in a good mood while the class, but she want to see the video later on. Maybe some of them, like maybe I go fast while talking and they want to like pause and put notes. They can do that. So this is one of the best part, I think, for the student. They always can see the recording. And for me, like I feel since we are now in the data scientist and everything, we can see like the analysis of each student, like where they did better than in assessment. Like in assignment, she's better. Maybe in the project that it's as a report, or like practicing learning or conversation. So you understand the personality of the student better than before.
You know, Amal, in my case, for example, because I'm a foreign language leader, I'm now in your home. I can see your plants. I can see your fridge. I can see your dog. I can see your flowers. It has given me a whole new world of things to discuss with my students because I'm part of the world I didn't see before. They play their instruments for me. They show me their paintings. They show me their watercoloring. You talk about personalizing. It has put me into their world in a way I never was before. Naser, continue on, please.
Let me add further to what Amal has actually mentioned. Now, as we know, with the online learning, the educational content is delivered to learners through the modern technology, computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones. So this not only saves time, but also opens door for what we call interactive learning. And instead of being passive learner, now students can choose what they need to learn quickly and easily whenever and wherever they want. For example, and I'm sure all of us, majority of us has used this, with the YouTube technology, with the advancement, the communication and networking that we have witnessed during the last few years, Web 2, Web 3, they all have facilitated the communication and sharing information among the students themselves, whether at local level or at international level. They made things actually even more available. If you allow me, Orlando, to go in some details about this.
A detail, but a fast detail.
Sure. Now, I have some reports in hand actually that the world is witnessing rapid advancement in artificial intelligence and virtual reality. Some report mentioning that 80% of emerging technology will have AI foundation coming in the coming couple of years. gaming application segment of wearable AI market projected to have a growth of over 35% due to the advancement technology. So here the issue. Now, with this kind of education, with, for example, augmented reality, this augmented reality, same as virtual reality that provides constructed reality, the augmented reality gives an enhanced view of real image. So that can help in explaining complex concepts in engineering fields, medical fields, that kind of plain images or even lab hands-on experiments that could not been possible before. Blockchain technology that people are talking about today and discussing, how can we use data and how can we use blockchain in encrypting the data distributed across multiple computers. So this also lead us to focus on the future research that should handle actually all of these titles. Yes, Orlando.
And all of that, just to get you excited, the excitement that comes with the idea of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, gaming that we can do, data that we can do. When we think about education and all of these opportunities around the corner, we're just getting excited. That's what it does. Now, our time is running so quickly. I want to make sure we address the other side of things. And the other side of things are some challenges. And there are two areas where I think the challenges really hit us hard. Challenge number one, accessibility and bandwidth. That not everybody has accessibility, not everybody has bandwidth. How do we address that? And number two is the whole issue of assessment and testing. And so I'd like each of you to take a turn to talk about what are your strategies for either attacking bandwidth issues or attacking assessment issues. And let's begin with Naser on this one.
Orlando, can I add a third barrier?
Okay.
Just to address the other barrier is social interaction.
Okay. We will let you do that when it gets to be your part with it. We'll do the add social interaction. Perfect. Naser, start us off with the barriers.
Okay, actually, yes, we have barriers. Yes, we do have barriers, big time, when it comes to internet connection and accessibility. We know the variations among the devices. We know the variation in technical specs, geographical locations, different coverage areas. Actually, those has actually burdened our system and caused us to come up with alternatives. So, for example, for those students who are not able to do this, what we have done, we have recorded our classes and lectures in order to overcome these difficulties. So this is one of the issues. Another important issue in this regard is the issue of assessment regarding to lab itself. Now, when it comes to STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, we know how it's important to have labs in our curriculum and in our assessment approach. So that actually had a big time forcing us to come up with an idea. How can we compensate this important issue, this important dimension, either to come up with introduce students with the new softwares, try to suggest others assessment that may to some extent replace, hoping that we can cover these issues in the future after we come back to ordinary classes. So we know some of the issues cannot be solved basically 100% online. So we need to solve to some extent and come back to this one. Oral presentation is an important issue in this direction. Coming up with what's called multi-stage assignment. So involve your students in an actual real-time problems, practical issues. You know, Orlando, sometimes I ask my students to search, and Google my name and check if there are some research topics that can be found related to my work on one side, and ask them to relate it to the idea of one of the topics that we are covering in our curriculum. If that is doable, that's fine. If it is not, let's initiate some discussions among the students. So these are issues that really needs to be tackled and better addressed in our future pandemics.
And did you notice, everybody, that again, we're talking about the power of technology and even the challenges such as bandwidth and accessibility? It's the technology that resolves that. And one of the ways that Naser talked about is, hey, we have alternatives. We can record the sessions. We can do things asynchronically. And so we've expanded our way to resolve the problem, again, using technology. Excellent response. Let's go with Kholoud to answer the same question, either with the issue of assessment or challenges.
Well, in terms of the challenges, I did not face much challenges, honestly. I should acknowledge the telecommunication infrastructure in around the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We have very good infrastructure. I did not face much of challenges. Even the students who were unable to get access, the university was kind enough to provide this connectivity for them. So that was gifted from the university. So in fact, that was an opportunity, not a challenge for us.
There you
we
go.
were
The
able
challenge
to reach
is met by infrastructure. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So it was an opportunity to be able to access students in different geographical areas. Some people were having the lockdowns outside the kingdom, so they were able to attend the classes, and everything actually was good for us. So and actually, I would like to touch base on that now. We being introduced into the online learning now can maybe help us address the let's say underserved areas, the countryside, the areas in which you don't have universities and schools. Maybe now they can look into the online learning to get degrees. Why have the challenge of coming to the city if there is a possibility to do that? And I can relate that to my experience with the telemedicine and connected health. You can bring the education experience to home if it's not possible to come to campus. So this is, I guess, this is a gift that we can look at, and a positive point we can look at that we got from the pandemic. In terms of the
because we've addressed the idea of accessibility, and you said, hey, it's a two-way street. It's
a two-way street.
Yeah. Let's move on to Shelly then. Shelly.
I love the word connected. I think we're living in a connected world today, and it is a two-way street. We're opening up, for marginalized communities. We're opening up in smart cities. We're opening up huge equality lounges or, innovation collabs from FQ with partners so that we can have places for women to be connected in marginalized communities, so that we can open up opportunities. So that wherever there is inaccessibility, we want to make it accessible, because there are amazing partners with great opportunities. So wherever there's inaccessibility, we want to make it accessible. And I think this is the whole beauty of EdTech today. So that everyone has opportunity to be educated. Education is life. It's lifeline for women, especially. So I think this is a whole new world that we are so excited about. So thank you to all of you in education, providing opportunities for women. I do want to talk about the importance of social interaction, because I think for mental health, I think it is so important for people not just to be behind a screen as well. So the opportunity to have social interaction with humans, I think, is important. So technology is great for enablement and for education, but I think it also is still important. It doesn't replace everything. The opportunity to also engage with humans is important. So don't just live behind a computer screen. Find the opportunity for human engagement. I think that is also incredibly important. So I just wanted to add that. I think that is a very important element.
Nasser talked about that in terms of the blending side. Excellent. Let me just add an example too. When we were talking about diversity and getting everybody a chance to participate, before, in the old-fashioned world, every semester I would get a list of students with learning disabilities and the modifications I would need to make in class in terms of where to take a test, how long to take a test, a chance to make notes, to record class. It's interesting that all of those changes that we were asked to make for students with a specific learning disability are now kind of part of the regular class. We're recording the class anyway. We have multiple time to take the test anyway.
Yeah, I wanted to say that
modifications we are part of it.
The beauty also of,
Go ahead,
of
Shelly.
and technology. Pumzili, the former executive director of UN Women, she created a program. She retired from UN Women. She's now in Africa. She has created a platform for teachers around the world to share their programs, so that also now universities can mix and match and share assessments with one another. So that's another beauty of technology, is all of you can share the best in class education with one another. That's an amazing opportunity with EdTech today.
If I may add something, Orlando, to this
Nasser,
one.
may I allow Amal to respond first, and then we'll go to you next. Because Amal, we're still talking about either the challenges or the assessment, and then we'll go to Nasser next. Amal.
As Dr. Kholoud said, I didn't really face, I had the same experience. I didn't really face down in technology, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Like, it happened with like big company too. Like, we always lose connection, or this is something happen with the technology in the technology world. But as Dr. Nasser said, we always have the video recorded. We have the email. And with Dr. Shelly, like, interaction is very important, but I feel like technology helped as well. Like, for me now, I'm still connected with my professors in Boston from Northeastern University, and sometimes I ask them. They are as a mentor for me, because this is my second year teaching. So technology helped with the social interaction as well. I have more friends. I'm connected with more friends around the world than before when I was, in the 90s.
Perfect. Nasser, you were going to add.
Yes. Let's not forget, Orlando, that we are moving from a generation to another generation. 80s, we started the first generation for mobile communication. 90s, second generation of mobile communication. Mm-hmm. Then came a third and fourth, and now people are working on the fifth generation. So eventually, this advancement in mobile communication from fifth to the sixth generation, people are working now on the sixth generation. With the advancement in what we call Internet of Things technology, the sensors, all of this stuff and all of these ideas and research definitely will leverage the level of universities and what amount, what content, what courses, what field of information they can deliver from stage to definitely a much better stage. So I'm sure we'll be even more equipped, God forbid, for future pandemic, with that we are already things that we were facing. Definitely, we will be having better solution for them, if not today, tomorrow.
And if I can just add a little caveat to that, I totally understand this idea of one generation to the next in terms of what people are comfortable with. My experience on the other side is, don't assume that the students can do everything without a little bit of training and orientation. That when we ask them to use technology themselves, we also want to take a little bit of time to make sure that we're helping them be able to do it as well. Great comments from everybody. With that, we're just about to wrap it up, and I want to give everybody just one more minute to make sure that they have a chance to, if there's something they really needed to say about the power of technology in education but didn't get a chance to do it, let's give everybody another minute to do so. Let's start with Amal on this one.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
I'm just saying that we're about to wrap up time. If there is anything that you want
to add, okay,
here's your chance.
Sure. What I want to add that I feel like in my experience, of course, the students are not really ready to the shift of the learning model, that they really depend on themselves. Before, like in my experience when I was in college, like we were dependent on the professors and the material. But now we have, like in data science, for example, Coursera, they have to do a lot of projects. In order to graduate as a data scientist, they have to do a lot of cleaning of the data, like one project or one course is not enough. So they feel like overwhelmed a little bit with a lot of knowledge from everywhere. Like for me, example, I give them homework and then some links to do. Like we have Coursera with the university, they have to take extra courses or do more work as beside the project. So I still feel they are not yet on the new learning approach that the technology really helps. So I just,
well
for
said,
me,
getting ready for that shift. Well said. Kholoud, anything you wanted to add before we finish up?
Yes.
Kholoud?
I just wanna say that technology, we should look at technology as an enabler. It's a tool. It's not the whole thing. As Shelly said, we definitely need the skilled professor. We need the human interaction. It is just something that empower the teacher and empower the students. We still have, your question was, are we there yet? We still have a long way to go. We can still invent in technology to enhance the learning experience. Thanks.
Well said. Shelly, final comments.
I think this is the greatest way to democratize education, and the future for women with technology is amazing. I hope to see so many more women in STEAM and STEM. And I think this is the way to go. We will see a whole new group of women entering the STEM fields because it won't be as scary. It won't be that line where they don't want to go into these fields because there's too many men. And I think it'll open up the doors of opportunity. I cannot wait to meet you women in Saudi Arabia. So I have to say that. Thank you for this conversation.
Great equalizer. Nasser, final comments.
Yes, actually, if I may add only one point, and I'll make it so brief. Now, if we want to use technology, I think one of the issues or fields that we need to use the technology is how to design effective assessment practices. We need to know how to present and discuss a model of learning, which we call model of learning oriented assessment, how to motivate students thinking and the practicing kind of assessment more than just feeding them or spoon feeding or just having. We know technology can provide everything at their hand. So how can we utilize technology to provide them the best out of the best? And that's my point.
And did you notice that we've just said that if the old-fashioned way we did assessment doesn't work, maybe we can find a better way to do assessment. And so portfolios and projects and those sort of things that are replacing the old multiple choice tests, well, so be it if technology does that. Well, everybody, you have had a delightful hour listening to some pretty amazing people to give you a sense of how do we leverage the power of technology in education today. And did you hear over and over and over again how the ability to bring people together, to equalize distribution, to attack diversity, to personalize the way that we teach things, to maintain social interactions, to have the many go to all. These really are the tools of the trade when we've effectively used technology in our education purposes. And if you don't leave this session super jive to say, let's get on it, it's time to get on it. With that, I thank the panel. I thank everybody for participating, and that was a lot of fun. We turn it back over to the powers that be. Thank you again, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Orlando.
Orlando.